Okay. Hello everyone, I'm Michael Istria and I'm here to entertain you for a bit about parallel builds in the Eclipse IDE. In the Eclipse workspace, before I get into the presentation, I changed a bit the title a few hours ago to not say Eclipse IDE, because I'd like to emphasize that what you'll see here applies to every Eclipse-based product that use Eclipse workspace. And this involves, for example, JDTLS or any headless application relying on the resource model. So the value is beyond the Eclipse IDE, and in our case at Red Hat and OpenShift IO, it's also in Eclipse JDTLS, which is deployed on the cloud. But we'll get into details about this later. Before we get into the presentation, I'd just like to introduce the demo tool that I've used to create the graph you'll see. The demo tool is available on GitHub. You can try it, install it as you want. And it gives you the ability to generate a Gantt chart of how the build is orchestrated and how long build takes and so on, which helps to visualize the impact of parallel builds or sequential builds or even a specific builder. It generates a Gantt chart, but it also allows to generate signatures for the build output. The signatures are necessary to compare two build outputs. So if I'm building a project with sequential build and parallel build, I would like to make sure I get the same output, the same class file. And this tool can generate the signature for the file, so then you can diff and see whether some files were built differently from sequential or parallel build. And last but not least, I'll get into details about it later. It allows to control the scheduling rule for JDT and M2E, but that's a bit of a spoiler. For the very basic case, the tool also introduced what I've called a wait builder. It's just a builder that you put on a project and it makes the project wait for 1 second. So instead of doing a compilation like JDT is using or a Maven run like M2E can do, it will just wait for 1 second. The wait builder also allows, for the sake of the presentation, to configure the scheduling rule on the builder, because you'll see that scheduling rule affect the build, and to showcase how it affects the build, this wait builder can say, I have a new scheduling rule, project scheduling rule, and so on. But you'll see as diagram go how it behaves. So this is the very basic use case. That's the legacy use case. That's the default one, the one that's still in the Eclipse IDE if you don't change anything. It's that the builds are sequential in Eclipse IDE. Here we have 6 projects which are independent, P1 to P6. And if you build them, they will build sequentially. So here it's the wait builder happening. So it's basically waiting for 1 second here and so on. So you get a sequence of build, and building the 6 projects will take 6 seconds in that case. Okay? That's how Eclipse IDE behaves and has always behaved. Behaved? I don't know. So when you see this, you immediately think, if you are in the performance and economy mindset, that there is opportunity for making things parallel. And that's what was implemented in Photon. In Photon, we introduced in Eclipse platform, in the lowest level you can think of, it's usable by anyone, the ability to build projects in parallel. To achieve so, we simply rely on the Eclipse job infrastructure, which is just doing things in parallel great. We create 1 job per project build. So if we build the 6 projects, we will create 6 jobs. Those jobs, we throttle them over a limited amount of threads because we don't want to expose the number of threads we are using on our machine, using the job group API that was introduced something like 5 years ago. And the number of threads you throttle on is what's written here. It's a preference you can configure. It's in Eclipse Photon and 2018.9 and so on. This preference is used by the default entry point for project build, which is workspace.build. It doesn't require you to use a specific API. It's just the one that has been there forever. Before I started to use Eclipse, before everyone probably here started to use Eclipse, except the very old timer. So as an adopter, you don't need to know anything else than you just change a preference to allow building on multiple threads. Because Eclipse is, it's a 17 years old project, it's because of good practices, it's very defensive when it comes to such change. The default is still 1 thread. At the moment, we don't enable parallel builds by default in the Eclipse IDE until we are sure it's safe. And that's what we're currently doing, and I'll get into details. of how we try to guarantee that to change it soon. So that's what is in Photon and that you can already use. If you go on 4 threads, instead of a sequential build, you get this kind of build, the same 6 projects, and you see here, yeah, I prefer this over the laser, that the builds are scheduled simultaneously, and because we decided to throttle on 4 threads, only 4 builds will start up, and whenever a thread is free, the build of another project will start. That's what throttling does. The benefits here are obvious. Basically, the first one will be a shorter full time. So building here 6 projects took me 2 seconds instead of 6. Shorter build time to completion, and that's less energy consumed. And if your Red Hat, for example, or whoever else would deploy JDTLS on the cloud and pay the bill for execution, that's 2/3 of economy because it's usually built according to CPU usage. So if things take 1/3 of the time, they basically cost 1/3 much in terms of CPU usage. So that's the general economy rule. And another one is that projects are available earlier. If you compare the graph, the last project that was built, you had to wait 6 seconds to get the project ready for usage, to get your build output. Here with parallel builds, the max time you had to wait is 2 seconds. So it makes that projects that are built are usually available earlier, which makes you able to keep working on them earlier. I'll get into a more concrete case of how this applies. So this means that you basically can work on your project a bit faster than if you have to wait for a long build chain. Again, I want to repeat it again and again, is that it applies to any Eclipse RCP or not with UI, it can be a headless RCP which use the workspace. And this also applies, for example, to JDTLS. But if you have your builder and your RCP application, it can apply to you. Since we rely on the jobs in the Eclipse IDE, we get a nice to have, which is that we've got a usable progress view. So if we run this build for the 6 projects, we can see that 4 of them are processing and 2 of them are waiting for processing. That's usable. Now let's get into more concrete situations. Is that projects are rarely standalone. You rarely have in your projects, in your workspace, 6 standalone projects. You have interdependencies between projects usually. You have an implementation that depends on API. You have some tests that depend on the implementation. Currently, or if you use a sequential build, the project graph that you see here, so the arrow here is a reference. So you have to read that P5 depends on nothing and P6 depends on P5, okay? Currently, if you build such a graph, the workspace will resolve what's called the topological sort. I don't know if you're familiar with it. Just one order which matches the condition that every node is after its ancestors. So P2 must be after P1 because it depends on P1. So it's using a topological sort. For a given graph, there can be multiple topological sorts. It's building one. Resulting in such graph, which is correct, projects are built in a good order. You get P3, which is built before P1, before P2, and so on. But still, it's sequential. You don't have builds in parallel. If we just enable the parallel builds on 4 threads, then instead of a topological sort, the graph is the perfect structure for parallelism because it has trees, it has branches, it is by default a kind of parallel structure. So we can just process the graph, just applying the rule that we build a project, we schedule the build of a project when all of its ancestors are built. In this case, we have to build this graph, those projects. It will have a look at the graph and say, okay, P3 and P5 have no ancestor, I can build them. And it scheduled the build of P3 and P5. Build go on, one of the project builds complete, P3 or P5. Then the graph looks at the build looks at the graph and say, okay, now that P5 is built, I can build P4 and P6. So it will trigger P4 and P6. It also sees that P3 is complete, So it builds P3, and so on with P2. So it's just processing the graph in the right order, making sure that we build the project after its ancestors. When there is parallelism in the Eclipse platform, there are scheduling rules. Scheduling rules are meant to control what can be run in parallel and what cannot be run in parallel. The idea of a scheduling rule is that if you have two operations which have a scheduling rule, and those scheduling rules are conflicting, those operations cannot run in parallel. That's an extremely important invariant for the Eclipse resource model, for the Eclipse job model. It's something that is very deeply implemented in the Eclipse IDE and needs to be really honored. If you break this, you break the Eclipse IDE, basically. So this is well implemented. And the idea of scheduling rules is that they are usually resource paths in practice. And they are conflicting is one path is the prefix of the other. So if you have A, B, C, an operation on ABC and an operation on AB, then they are conflicting, because if you modify AB, there are chances that you should not modify C at the same time. If you have AB and AC, then they are not conflicting. It's okay to modify AB and A/C in parallel. They seem unrelated. That's what scheduling rules are about. They are about preventing things to happen in parallel. The project builders, the incremental project builder class that you may be aware of, and if you're here, probably you are aware of, as a method called getRule that says, okay, for my builder, I use this scheduling rule. The default implementation is workspace.getRoot. So if you don't implement this, it makes that your builder has the workspace root as scheduling rule. We'll see later that it involves a lot of waste. If we have only conflicting scheduling rule, just like it's the case here, no, in sequential build, sorry. If we have a sequential build and conflicting scheduling rule, it basically doesn't change anything because it's sequential, it's not parallel, so the scheduling rule don't affect a sequence. It's really when things are running in parallel. So why are there scheduling rules on builders, you ask me? Because since then, everything was always sequential, and we wanted to prevent things to build in parallel. The reason is that some operations, which are not builders, can try to modify the workspace while you're building. And the reason why there is a scheduling rule on the builder is more a safety reason. When you are building a project, it's very likely that your builder wouldn't like a particular resource, a particular folder to be modified. For example, in the case of JDT, it could be that you don't want anything to modify your class file while you're building. It could make sense. So I think that's, I'm sure, that's why these scheduling rules are there. It's just to make sure that when you're building a project, your builder can say, when I'm building, I don't want anyone to modify this. It's a safety approach. But workspace root is the prefix of everything. So we need to refine the rule, and there is a golden rule about scheduling rule that you will learn by heart because we'll repeat 5 times in this presentation. Is that to minimize conflicts and allow more parallelism, you have to set the narrowest rule your builder can deal with. So if your builder depends on nothing, do specify a new scheduling rule. If your builder just needs to lock one file, you just set this file as scheduling rule. And don't be greedy about scheduling rule, be precise. It's very important. We'll see in other examples how it affects things concretely. And the first example is this extremely bad state of art that has probably irritated millions of users in the world, is that many builders, most builders do not specify a scheduling rule. So they use the default workspace root scheduling rule. But the workspace root is the prefix of everything. It blocks every operation. If you have one build which is using the workspace root, you cannot save a file anywhere in the workspace. So this use case you see here, where a user builds one project, it can be a manual build or an auto build. One project starts building. As a user, I go to another project to modify an HTML file just for the fun. Then I get this pop-up saying, sorry, I'm building this project, I don't know, a Maven project. You cannot modify an HTML file in another unrelated project. This pop-up that is something you learn to hate as an Eclipse IDE user, is caused by these scheduling rules on Builder, okay? So I'm not talking about parallel builds in that case, I'm really talking about how it's already annoying to have such scheduling rule on builders, at least so greedy scheduling rules. And the bad examples, it's not minor builders we are talking about the most important parts of the Eclipse IDE. So it's probably a legacy reason that makes that this was never improved, because the incremental project builder get rule interface was added a bit late. It was not very early in Eclipse IDE. So it just probably that those builders decided to not know about it, decided or just didn't know about it. So JDT caused the nasty pop-up, M2E causes the nasty pop-up, and PDE causes the nasty pop-up. That's the state of art of our beloved IDE. If we refine the scheduling rule, so if I modify the builder so that the scheduling rule is, for example, just the current project I'm building, it's a safe choice in many cases. If we refine the builder and we build one project, then the scheduling rule only affects the current project. And if we save a file in another unrelated project, there is no conflict, the file is saved, and the builder continues. So remember this golden rule, which is that to minimize conflicts and allow more parallelism, you should set the narrowest scheduling rule your builder can deal with. So I've made the very black view on the state of the builder, but there is really a new hope because this is obviously valuable. JDT and M2E have enabled in 2018.9 release a preference, which is hidden by default, to change the scheduling rule for their builder. So with this preference, you can say, instead of using the workspace root scheduling rule, just use null. Null is the most open scheduling rule. It conflicts with nothing. You just do whatever you want. It's a kind of free-for-all scheduling rule. So this preference is there. Of course, by default, we stay to the legacy approach because we are conservative but safe. And but still, it's a preference you can use through others, through plugin customization.ini, through API. You can customize this preference. It's just not exposed in the UI by default. So if you are into the business of builders, or if you are in the business of JDTLS, like some people at the rear of the room, you should try it as soon as possible to see how it impacts positively or negatively your product. So a note about scheduling rule on parallel builds. The relationship between them is obviously very strong. If we have all rules conflicting but still want parallel builds, then we will get the strategy which consists in creating jobs and so on. But because of the scheduling rule, the build will not happen in parallel because the scheduling rule say we are conflicting, we do not run in parallel. It's the design of scheduling rule. So it means that scheduling rules are honored with parallel build. They are not just thrown away and ignored. It would be too dangerous. It could be a bit better. Maybe I can go quickly through that slide, but there is some time wasted in the case of conflicting scheduling rule, because here you see the job starts and the build starts a bit after, because the job starts because it doesn't define as the scheduling, but the build does it, but it's more food for thought if you feel advanced on this topic. In reality, it shouldn't affect you that much. So here is the very most important slide of this presentation, maybe of the conference, is that basically what we did to enable parallel builds in the Eclipse IDE is that for one project build, we trigger one job. We throttle the job with the job group API, which is dedicated to throttling and does it perfectly. So throttling is, I don't know if you're familiar with the term, I didn't know it a few years ago. So it's about limiting the number of threads you're using. If you set 4 threads maximum, it will be throttled over 4 threads. The jobs are scheduled according to the dependency graph. That's very important because there are dependencies to consider, so they are considered. And the scheduling honors the scheduling rule, which means that conflicting scheduling rules on builders mean that builders don't run in parallel. And the golden rule to make that work is that to minimize conflicts and allow more parallelism, you should use the minimum scheduling rule your builder can deal with. Is it okay so far? Okay. We'll highlight a few cases where we see the value of going parallel on relaxed scheduling rule pops up. The first one will be one project which is a standalone project with a dependency chain. So we have P1 to P5, which are a sequence of builds, and we have P6, which is a standalone project. We run over one thread, current behavior. We get the sequence as usual. Okay, P6 is available at t plus 6 seconds. We run over 4 threads. We will get P1 to P5 built in the nice sequence, but P6 will be triggered immediately and will be available at t plus 1 second. It makes that as an end user, if I want to work on P6, I have 5 left seconds to wait before I can modify P6. So that's one value, and it's an example of what I said earlier, is that if you have one small project versus a lot of projects, going parallel allows you to be more able to manipulate your projects earlier and make progress faster. The other interesting case, which is not so frequent, but it's very fun for the sake of algorithm, are the cycles. So if you have cycles in your workspace, you should avoid it. It's just annoying, but still it can happen. In the current sequential build, when you have a cycle, there is no topological sort. The topological sort just works for, I don't remember the term, but regular graph without acyclic graph. So it chooses what's called the strongly connected component algorithm to find one sequence which is optimal according to the cycle. Okay, that's how things are. It just works. So cool. Still, we get a sequential build because we are on one thread. Now, with the same cycle, if we go parallel, how do we handle the cycle? First, we will just ignore the cycle until we only have the cycle to process. So in this case, we see that P4 and P6, for example, they are just standalone projects. We'll start by building them. We schedule the build. There are 2 builds, 4 threads. They start immediately. Cool. Next, when P4 and P6 are done, we see that there is no entry point that has no dependency in the cycle here. So what we do is that we take the sequence that was computed earlier, the strongly connected component sequence, and we just pick the first one in the sequence. At least we know that in the legacy world, it has worked like this forever, so it's a safe choice to just respect the order of the sequence. So we take P1 in that case, we build P1, it's built standalone, and when P1 is done, then we see that P2 and P5 have their ancestor built, so they can be scheduled, and we process the graph in parallel just like we used to. So processing a cycle is just processing a graph, and whenever we don't have, we only have the cycle, we just pick the first node of the cycle, and we retry processing the graph normally. The workspace root scheduling rule, the root of evil is that it's very, yeah?
The slide before, P5 was built before the cycle.
No, it was built, P1 is built first, okay. And then once P1 is built, it basically builds this subgraph, okay. And P5 is ready to be built because it only depends on P1.
Okay.
Okay. The workspace root scheduling rule, so it's the one that's the most widely used. For backward compatibility reasons, when one builder involved in the project build uses the workspace root scheduling rule, because it locks everything, we keep the build fully sequential. So we just keep the parallel things, we stay to the legacy behavior, because otherwise it will cause bugs. But anyway, even if we were trying to run things in parallel when one of the jobs used the workspace root scheduling rule, it will conflict with everything, and things will not trigger in parallel, so it doesn't change much. But the conclusion of all that is that if most builders use the workspace root scheduling rule and the workspace root scheduling rule disable parallel build, it means that most builders disable parallel builds. Yeah?
Can we enable any trace or something like that to see what's actually forcing this?
I'll take the question after the presentation. So the golden rule is that to minimize conflicts and allow more parallelism, you have to set the narrow rest rule your builder can deal with. It's very important. We'll get to two more concrete case studies. The first one is in Acute, in Eclipse Acute C# support for Eclipse IDE. We have a builder which just runs .NET build like you would do by command line. If you're not a .NET user, .NET build is just like Maven, whatever. It's just a command to build stuff. We have those 6 .NET projects. If we run them sequentially, it takes 39 seconds on my machine. In the same condition, if we throttle it on 4 threads, it will take 26 seconds. The actual gain is 33%, which is good, but the theoretical gain is that it should be 66, just like in the example I showed earlier. You throttle 6 equivalent builds on 4 threads, the theoretical gain is 66%, because the longest time is t plus 2 seconds instead of t plus 6 seconds. Why? I guess you already all know this and you're too shy to tell it. The reality is that most real-life operations, which are not just a thread.sleep, do have bottlenecks in terms of performance. They share input-output, so file system, network, or things like that. So in this case of .NET, instead of taking, when building 4 .NET builds in parallel, it just takes 3 times more to build each project. But still, 3 times more for 4 projects makes an overall shorter time. But it's important to remember that building things in parallel usually make them all a bit slower in real life. But it's still a major win, 33% of resources. Imagine you're paying a cloud and your bill drops by 33%, your employer will be happy. Another use case to highlight will be the Java and M2E story. So as I mentioned, those builders do use the workspace root scheduling rule just by legacy. And those rules make that everything is conflicting. So even if we trigger it in parallel, if we enable parallel build and say build 4 threads, it's just ignored. So that's the current state. To apply the golden rule, which is that to minimize conflicts and allow more parallelism, you should set the narrow rest rule your builder can deal with. The demo tool has introduced the 2 preferences that you can see here, where you can force those builders through the preference that they enabled some time ago in 2018-9. You can force those builders to have a null scheduling rule. And with this new scheduling rule, builds will happen in parallel. And that's what we are currently in this bug. Write it down and put comments. 531.554. In this bug, we are currently monitoring through different projects how this impacts the real build, the JDT and M2E builds, whether it causes issue, what is the gain in performance, with the hope that at some point we feel confident that we can make the switch once and for all without taking risk. But we are not there yet. We are still in this process, and your help is really welcome. But still, we have a way already to set those scheduling rules to null. And the effect is obviously positive. If we have this project set, Java project 1 to 5, there are actually Maven project 1 to 5 and a standalone project. We can see that with the null scheduling rule at the bottom, we see things running in parallel. We see the P1 project built immediately instead of having to wait for a long time. And we see that the overall time is, in that case, it will be 10 to 15% slower. So you save 10 to 50% time overall, and you make P1 available at t plus 1 instead of t plus 50. So that's really working, I would say. Now a real-life project, because I've not shown most real-life project in this situation. I can show more to interesting parties after the talk. the effect of the null scheduling rule on SLF4J. So this is SLF4J imported with Maven import, and this is the dependency graph of SLF4J generated by the demo tool. At the top, a regular build. At the bottom, the same build, but with the null scheduling rule. And you see here a gain, if you look at the overall gain, of 25 to 30% maybe on SLF4J, which is a real-life project. In the document, which is in the bug 531554, you see how it scales on projects like Spring Boot, Wi-Fi, projects with hundreds of modules, and we always get a gain of 15 to 40%, depending on the case. It also depends a lot on your machine, obviously. If you're streaming videos and having a conference while playing two video games and build at the same time, parallelism works a bit less. So that's about all for this presentation. I will take questions, but before that, I would like you all to repeat this rule with me, which is that to minimize conflicts and allow more parallelism, you have to set the minimal scheduling rule your project can deal with, your builder can deal with. And I'm taking the question now. So, it was yours, yeah?
What was my first question? I have a second one, and that is, if you now use the null scheduling rule, and some project will basically recreate artifacts of another one to end in a kind of build loop, maybe. Have you seen such effects, and even maybe endless build, that project A recreates artifacts in B, recreates artifacts in A, and so on?
So that's I've not seen such effect on the projects we've tried, and I think this case is already possible actually. It's possible for one builder to modify the file, even asynchronously, on another builder and make a cycle like this. And projects build can receive, yeah, to be honest, I don't think it's much of an issue. It can happen, but in reality, it's a case that people already want to avoid. So, yeah, I think it's possible, but not probable. And it doesn't fix the situation.
And my first question was how to track down the bad builders in my own installation.
The bad builders? Yes. How to track down the bad builders in your own installation? There is no easy way to do it without auditing the code, I would say, but it will be easy to implement this in the demo tool. So you could install it and get a pop-up when you have bad builder, hey, bad builders, bad builders. But you'll get bored with it very, very fast because there are a lot of bad builders. And they are not bad. And that's one thing I want to say, especially for JDC committers who aren't there. The reason why they are in that state is just that it's an issue that is relatively new. We never tried parallel builds before, and there are many things to do, and the API came after the builder. It's not a born with API. So it's just a matter of adopting the best practices that have emerged with time. From right to left, so your turn. Yeah?
Have you experienced any issue with error markers and bits? In my team, we have a room setup which does a Maven import of a 3D project which is not large. And if we start using Fulcrum, sometimes it's really hard to pinpoint the issue, but sometimes we see that there are error markers that which are actually spurious. Right? It says that one of the project dependencies cannot be built, where it's actually fitting in. It's just the markers not being removed. So deleting the markers fixes the problem.
Deleting the markers is the responsibility of the builder.
Yeah.
It's not affected by the build engine.
So well, to be honest, I understand the issue, but as I don't think it's related to parallel build and specific to one builder or the other, I probably move on and we can discuss that after. Next, Marcus, I think it was.
Have you tried the nice scheduling rule with the 3D builder as well?
I think a patch was merged on this topic, and I didn't try it myself yet. The null scheduling rule on PD builder. Lars can probably tell you a bit more about it, or Karsten, I don't remember who made the change.
You made the change, and I merged it.
So we. So is Danny there? No.
The current scaling rule, which we now have after Apache, is project and
Yeah.
model.
Yeah. So we've made a scheduling rule which is modular.
Project and PDE model. So this PDE model, yeah, we can talk about that.
Thomas.
If you're using a mouse scheduling rule, what are the requirements on it? The parallelism requirements on a builder?
If you're using null, it means that your builder is thread safe, or that the parts that are not thread safe are made synchronized to not happen in parallel. If you want your builder to run in parallel, it has to be parallelizable code. And JDT has actually. So Fred forces me to stop. Thank you for attending. I hope you got entertained at least by the talk and maybe enlightened even. Thank you.